Hello everybody, I just want to have a word with you about Tosca, who left us yesterday, and tell you a little bit about Tosca's story. We have a very good friend and supporter of ours who was here in the beginning in 2014 when we were just starting the refuge. It's Ellen Cochrane, and you will see her on social media. She is an amazing equine trainer, and she trains in the kindest, most humane way possible, without any force, without any bits, and primarily through forging a relationship with the horse, the mule, or the donkey. And when she was here in 2014, she did some work up in the High Atlas with muleteers, where they were traditionally worked wearing a very harsh Berber iron bit, which destroyed their teeth and was actually, we believe, quite cruel, although it had been used for decades and decades. And Ellen worked with some of the muleteers, and they started to use bitless bridles. And one of those mules all those years ago was Tosca. And Tosca had quite a devoted owner, and she was never worked on a bit. She was an absolute natural. She was a leader in every sense of the word. If she went on a trek, Tosca would be out in front. She remembered the route very well. And I say that was back in 2014. It was just earlier this year, towards the back end of just before Christmas maybe, when Ellen contacted us to tell us that Mohammed, the owner, had been in touch with her, and Tosca had been kicked by another mule and it had injured her hip, and he wouldn't allow her to work, but he was at a loss to know what to do. And we agreed to take Tosca, and the boys went up to Imlil and brought her down from the mountains. She came to us and she had painkillers, physiotherapy. We isolated her in a stable to start with. And then once she was out with the other equines, we could see what an absolute natural she was. She was the sweetest, kindest mule you could ever meet. And we used to regularly take the horses that we had by then up to our top field, and Tosca would lead the way. She knew the route, she knew the way to go. And she was also a beautiful mule. She was extremely beautiful. But of course, the time came when she was okay, that the vet cleared her. She was still fairly young for a mule, and we realised that she was actually getting very bored with us. She didn't want to just stand around with the old mules all the time. You had to keep her mind occupied. She was highly intelligent, and we truly believed she was missing her owner and the work she used to do. The work she did was very light. She was never overloaded. She would carry some luggage on a trek for the people who were walking with her, but she was never, ever overworked. So we contacted the owner, who'd kept in touch with Ellen throughout the whole time, concerned about his mule, and gave him the choice as to whether he felt he could take her home or leave her with us. And if he'd left her with us, we'd have had to find her some work to do, I promise you. Anyway, he was thrilled to have her back. And she went back yesterday. And we were all so sad and emotional. We gave her a new red head collar. We put a collar around her neck that said Georgia. Everyone said goodbye to her. And we went to load her on the truck. And of course she didn't want to get on the truck. Of course she didn't. It was nothing about going home. She just wasn't keen to get on the truck. But eventually she did. And she had the very long journey back to Imlil. And when she got out of the truck, and you saw a video of that, that's maybe where some people thought one of her back legs was still quite weak. But she had stood the whole way from here to the High Atlas, a journey of, maybe it took them 3 hours driving slowly. So she was a bit stiff when she got out, but the minute she saw her home, it was fascinating. The boys told me they took her off the truck and stood with her, and the owner said to take her leash off, and she looked up and down and she could see her house and off she went straight into the house. So someone said it's a shame we couldn't see her Oni greet her, but of course people in the mountains are quite nervous about having their photograph taken or being filmed, and we didn't want to intrude in that way. But Ellen has put on Facebook a very lovely photograph she took of Tosca in 2014, where she'd been working with her owner and he'd stopped to share a snack with her, and you could see the bond between them. So I'll post that afterwards. But we are quite satisfied that she has gone back to a loving home. We wouldn't do it otherwise. Now, some people have said, oh, you know, they shouldn't leave Georgia, they've had a good life here. So I'm going to be quite clear with you. Of all the equines we've had, only 6 have we ever let go. One went to our friend who has Forquet Villas in Marrakesh, and she went to keep their donkey company, and she's just treated like a member of the family. We let 4 others go. They went in pairs to very good hotel provisions, and we keep an eye on them. And of course, Tosca was the 5th and the only one we have ever returned to an owner. So please don't criticise us for doing that. And I make the point again, we are overwhelmed with equines. And had we kept Tosca, she wouldn't have been as happy as she is back in the mountains. And it would also have occupied a space that could be taken by an animal in need. And an animal in need came in last night. I'll video or photograph him in a moment with a little abandoned young donkey in Marrakesh. And we have 2 more coming in next week, possibly a 3rd. So the work goes on. So I hope you understand what we did, why we did it, and we would never, ever return an animal to an exploitative owner. So bye for now.